Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chris Taylor, the advocate for the devil, your hostess with the mostest. Video games of anyone that you've probably ever met. Like most people born in the 80s but growing up in the 90s, my first console was a Nintendo console. A big, clunky, 4-battery green screen original Game Boy. Just look at that thing. You could club somebody to death with that thing. Recently, the Big N announced their newest console, the Nintendo Switch, and early impressions thus far are quite positive. Strong, confident marketing on their part makes it seem like they finally have their eye on the ball, washing the bad taste of the Wii U out of our collective consciousness. Which is good, because let's face facts, Nintendo was in dire need of a shot in the arm in the great console wars. But here's the thing. Contrary to popular opinion, Nintendo was never, ever in trouble. Alright, before you guys stop the video and start angrily writing in the comments section about how I, Ninten, don't have a leg to stand on here, take a moment and ask your parents, or well, any relative really, and ask them what your console is. Go ahead. Oh wait.
See, couldn't do it, could ya?
Invariably, it almost always comes back to, you play that Nintendo thing. That's the primary point in Nintendo's favor. They always have been and always will be associated with video games. Microsoft has the Xbox, sure, but their name is mostly known for Windows and computers and such. Sony has the PlayStation brand, but they also make TVs, sound systems, computers, cell phones. They're electronics oriented. And while yes, a video game console is technically an electronic device too, there are other divisions that Sony started with. Since the mid-80s, Nintendo has been all about gaming. The ins, the outs, all aspects of digital interactive media. And they've had huge successes. The Super Nintendo is arguably one of the best systems ever, boasting a huge library of games spanning every single genre. The Wii? On the outside, it's just a gimmick using a waggle controller, but it also helped push gaming into damn near everybody's home. Just with Wii Sports alone, a game packaged with the system itself, with very little confusing buttons, even your parents, even your grandparents were able to just pick it up and play. Speaking of the Wii...
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Being in the business as long as they have, Nintendo has had more than its fair share of flops. The Wii U did not perform to the standards set by any of its predecessors. The original Wii had the potential to be a massive failed experiment, and then there's that red, portable, pain-in-the-neck system known as the Virtual Boy. Did anybody really think that thing was gonna be a success?
The biggest hurdle to success has always been failure.
On the one hand, well, Nintendo did. Otherwise, they wouldn't have released those consoles in the first place. On the other, I distinctly remember someone talking about failure before. We need to fail. We need to be told that we're wrong. We need to get our asses kicked once in a while. Oh, right! That's me! And that's also what Ninten does. Okay, yeah, that's the last time I use that pun, I promise. But seriously, Nintendo has shown that it learns from its mistakes. The GameCube underperformed in the face of Sony's PS2, and seeing that the Xbox 360 and PS3 were both targeting the teen to adult demographic, they opted to compete differently. Instead of going with graphical output and a slew of extra features that were not core to gaming, they made the Wii, a system focused on innovation rather than just sticking with what everyone else was doing. On the handheld front, they pushed out a dual-screen system that also had a touchscreen. And now, it's got a dial to switch to 3D.
3D so real you can actually feel James Cameron stealing money from your pocket.
Do all games take full advantage of all the various bells and whistles? Absolutely not. But Nintendo has proven to be the one console that has no problems taking risks, taking chances with the current norms of how games are played.
You're almost normal. That's boring.
Their newest console seems to be heading in that direction too, able to be a handheld or a home console hooked up to the TV. Sure, it hasn't been released yet and we don't know just how good it's going to be, but if there's one thing for sure, it's that you've never quite seen anything like it. While the other two console makers are content with making more restrictive, bigger, slower PCs, Nintendo is doing something different. And while that doesn't always work, sometimes it's better to fail spectacularly than to just exist. But that's just the consoles themselves. What about the games? It would be really easy to just rattle off a bunch of names. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Super Mario Bros., Kirby, Donkey Kong, Pokemon, The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Mario Kart, hell, all the Mario sports style games, Super Smash Bros., Star Fox. The list goes on and on and on and on.
And going.
Stop the bunny, please.
And going.
It would be safe to assume that each game in all of their series that I just named all play so similarly that you wouldn't be able to tell one from the next. And outside of some subtle differences, you would be correct in that assertion. However, that is the one aspect where Nintendo doesn't really have to be innovative. Seriously, all those titles are big names that are known and beloved throughout the entire spectrum of gamerdom. All age demographics are represented, as well as damn near every genre. Now, some have said, well, Nintendo makes great games, why don't they just become a third-party developer and start making games for the real consoles? But to that I say,
Hell no!
the reason why people are going to take the chance on buying a new, differently played console like those that Nintendo brings out is by sticking with big names with staying power that people constantly buy. It makes no sense to move to other consoles when people buy Nintendo consoles specifically to play those games. Every console at launch has a bunch of people waiting to purchase that must-own property. It could be Grand Theft Auto, or God of War, or Gears of War, or Halo, or any other exclusive, but Nintendo has more must-own names that they own that will sell a system. And lastly, in comparison to Microsoft and Sony's offerings, a new Nintendo console, the vast majority of the time, is priced cheaper, thus making it easier to grab one of their big names. They may all be similar to each other, but so is every NHL, WWE, Call of Duty, and Assassin's Creed game that comes out every year. Similar enough to be considered almost identical, but different enough to make you want to buy them each and every year. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, I do hope I shed some light into why Nintendo can still be considered a successful video game company. Whether it be in their willingness to take chances with their consoles or the regular big names we've come to expect, Nintendo is one of the big three for a reason. Their games are closely linked to their name, which is one of the major reasons for their continued existence in the current competitive market. And while they have failed in the past, the announcement of the Switch could be just the thing they need to be back in the good graces of gamers everywhere. As always, feel free to let us know in the comments section below what you guys think, positive or negative, so that I can proceed to prove you wrong.
Boom! Lawyered.
But for now, in the case of Nintendo's current status in the gaming realm, the defense rests.
That's Kirby. He's cute. Till you cross him, then he's one tough cream puff.